Yep. Good morning, everyone. So, last session we learned about working with APIs. So, I hope you tried this example. Fake store API, right? Were you able to connect, get the data and all? Actually, when working with API, sometimes you need to wait because data coming from API may delay sometime because they have to come from their servers. So don't get hurried and confused because sometimes immediately result will not come. So then you will be thinking that something went wrong in the code. But actually the API sometimes responds slow. It is not immediate. Then data comes slow. So you need to wait. You can check in the console. If there is any problem in the code, console will show errors. If console is not showing any error, then we just wait for a few seconds because API data is not local data. It is the data coming from some other websites which you are using. So we need to wait. So this is the example we tried in the last session. So we created this design. In this, we created a simple approach of user can click next and the next product detail will come. User click previous, the previous detail will come. User can navigate between the products. Actually, these products are coming from an web API. So we used this HTTP fakestoreapi.com. By here, there are so many requests and queries. We will use different queries in different occasions. Now, when data is coming from APIs, presenting, interacting with the data is the major thing we need to learn. As of now, we learned only simple concept. We stored some data in a property or we accessed the data and displayed in the UI. So, and only one detail we are picking up. One product information, one username or one detail we are picking and displaying. That's okay. If an array is coming, how to present array? If any complex data is coming, how to present complex data like JSON, array of objects and all that we have to see now. For that in Angular, so we need to discuss a very important concept, Angular directives. We have to start with Angular directives. So in the components, you learned about how to work with basic data binding, one-way binding and two-way binding. By learning these directives, you will learn more about this. So how we can handle and work with that more. So actually, what is a directive? Technically, what is a directive? How it actually works is actually in Angular, directive is a function. Directive is a function in Angular. That can handle various tasks. Directive is a function in Angular that can handle various tasks. What are those various tasks? Nothing but so it can return markup. It can return markup So another is it can extend markup. It can extend markup, and it can make the markup more interactive. These three things a directive can do. 1 second. Okay, so technically a directive can do a lot of things. It can return markup, it can extend markup, it can make the markup more interactive. So what does that means? I will tell you. Here we designed Netflix example. We created Netflix example. In that index page, how we got header, or in the index page, how we got registration form. There is register area, how we got that registration form. We designed a register component, and that register component we are using in index. How you are using that register in index? How we are using that register in index is nothing but actually this is the register component. In that we index component, you want to use register inside it. Then what you have done is you designed component, but how it came here? To bring that component here, you used app Netflix register. Am I right? So you have used app Netflix register like this. Then what happens when you done this? What happened? It returned a registration markup form. Na? So actually this is a directive. It is a directive. When we used this directive, what it done? It returned some markup. That means it will present some presentation. So actually directives are several types. I will explain now. So this is a directive. What is the role of directive here? It is returning some markup. If we want same markup everywhere, then what we have to do? Just use this directive. Do we need to design everywhere? No. We have to just implement its directive. So it is a directive actually. That means technically it is a component. How we access the component in our page? By using the components directive. We call this as component directive. That means this is officially called as, actually we call this as component directive. This is actually component directive. So what this component directive have done? This component directive return markup. return markup. So for example, I used another one here. Suppose I am using another concept. I am using input type as text box, text. Now what I have done here is I defined like this ng model. I defined like this ng model, or already we learned MVVM architecture. We used ng model. Am I right? Now, what this ng model will do to text box? What this ng model will do to text box? We learned in data binding. Na? What it will do to text box? I told you it changes the static text box into dynamic. It changes the static text box to dynamic. Once it is turned to dynamic, we can collect its data. We can send some data into it. Dynamically, we can control that. That means now this ng model is also a directive. This is also a directive. That means ng model is a directive, and this is also a directive. But see, this Netflix register, this directive is used as tag. Am I right? The directive is used as tag. Now tell me how this directive is used ng model. How it is used? It is used as an attribute. That means a directive can have two purposes as of now. One purpose is returning markup. Another purpose is extending markup. Extending markup means already it is doing something. You know what is the purpose of an attribute now? So what is the purpose of attribute in HTML? Already HTML have suppose heading H1, H2, H3. Now it will present heading. If I want to center align that heading, then I will use an attribute called align. So what align is doing, it is an attribute. This attribute is extending the heading and giving more functionality to heading. Am I right? So in one place, directive is returning markup. In another place, it is extending markup. That means all directives don't have same behavior. Some directives return markup. Some directives will extend markup. Here the directive is extending. Which directive is extending? ng model. And app Netflix register, that directive is returning markup. Like that you will learn so many now. But what a directive can do? So it can return markup and it can extend markup. Not only that, a directive can make the markup more interactive and responsive. It can make the markup more interactive and responsive. Generally, to make responsive, you need styles na CSS. You can make responsive and interactive. So by using CSS, that means you see, actually, later you will learn about them. For example, this text box I am giving here. We have a text box. So input type is equal to text. This text box have required, text box have required attribute na? It is used for validation. Verify whether it is valid or not. Now, what we can do is, if validation failed, that text box should turn to red color. If it is valid, then it should be green color. Then what I can do is, I can manage that like this. You can write like this. So where in CSS, later I am going to tell you about this concept in validations. I am just explaining various ways of directive. I can write like this: input. For this input, I can apply a class called ngValid. This indicates Angular valid. Now, what is the speciality of this is, it will verify whether the input is satisfied with the validation. If it is satisfied with the validation, this directive can apply some effects. Green color, red color, blue color, some effects it can apply. Now, how this directive is being used? How this directive is being used? In CSS we are writing now. In CSS, dot means what? Class. That means now here directive is working as a class. And what this directive can do now? It can return markup? No. It can extend markup? No. It can make the markup more interactive and responsive. That means it can make it more better in performance. So a directive have three different works. A directive can return markup, a directive can extend markup, and a directive can make the markup more interactive and responsive. Actually here, so to return markup, how a directive is used? To return markup, how directive is used? Tag. That means a directive is used as a element. A directive used as a element, then it returned markup. To extend markup, how directive is used? Attribute. To extend markup, it is used as attribute. To make markup more interactive, how it is used? Class. So a directive can be used as element to return markup. So element for which purpose? To return markup. And directive can be used as attribute. Attribute for what purpose? To extend markup. And it can be used as a class. It can be used as class to make markup more responsive and interactive like this. That's what a directive can do. And see here, suppose I will give three different syntaxes here. One is app Netflix header, something like this. This is used as what? Element. We have input type text and ng model. This is used as what? Attribute. And we have dot input dot ng invalid valid like this. This is used as what? Class. It is used as class. So every directive cannot have same behavior. Directives have different behaviors. Some directive will return markup, some directives will extend markup, and some directives will make the markup more interactive. So actually, the directives are classified. Directives in Angular are classified into three major groups. They are classified into three major groups. One is component directive, another one structural directives, another one we have attribute directives. Three categories are there: component directives, structural directives, and attribute directives. In Angular, directives are classified into three groups. We have component, we have structural, and attribute. Component directive we already learned, finish. That part we already discussed. Component directives are nothing but you can create a component. That component have a certain presentation. We can call and use it anywhere we want. That basic thing we already learned. So component directives we already discussed. So now tell me what a component directive can do. What a component directive can do, it can return markup. That means it returns markup. It uses Angular component which renders markup. It uses an Angular component which renders markup. That means syntax already we finished. How to create component, how to access component, all we learned. I will use a syntax: app, Netflix, some register, like this. So this is how to create and how to design, how to access and use all these three things we learned. For that, we created a complete template design like Netflix. So these are called as what? Component directives. So app login, app register, app header, these all are component directives. When you use those directives, they are going to return some markup. Now, next important in the directives, we have to know about how do we use structural directives. How we can deal with structural directives. So what are structural directives and how we can use the structural directives? Actually, structural directives purpose is nothing but, so a structural directive is used to add elements, to remove elements. They are used for adding elements, removing elements, and to repeat elements. These are the three things a structural directive can do. A structural directive is responsible for adding elements, removing elements, and repeating elements. That is what actually structural directive can do. Actually, this work in JavaScript is very difficult thing. In JavaScript, to do this, lengthy process is there. Very lengthy process is there. and it is very difficult concept, right? For example, I will tell you here, adding element, removing element, updating data into element. I will tell you one point here. Because you learned JavaScript here, I will show you a simple concept. Suppose we have a page. Now I asked you a simple question here, suppose. So my question is, there is a heading, elements. Okay. My simple question is, now create a button and add into this page without using HTML button elements. We need to create one element and we need to add that element into page without using input tags, no tags. We need to add an element here. So for example, we want to add into this div, okay? Into the div, we need to put a button. How you will create buttons dynamically? Generally in JavaScript, it is very lengthy process. How to add elements is lengthy process. Actually, what we do is, so we have onload, body load. We have to write a function and the function body load. And to create any element, button is equal to document dot create element button. We can create an element. This button will have inner HTML, some register. And this button must be added document.query selector into div by using append child. We have to add the button. This is how JavaScript adds a button into the page. So we are creating a button. We are adding this button into the page. Adding elements, removing elements, iterating elements is very lengthy process in JavaScript. That means for that we need lot of DOM methods. Lot of DOM methods, lot of statements, lot of collections. This is very complex. Very complex. For example, if anybody asked you in interview like how to create a HTML table in JavaScript, that is regular question in MNCs. When you go to MNCs as front-end developer, they will ask, create a table with JavaScript and add to page. Don't use any table tag. You must be able to create a table with rows, with cells dynamically by using JavaScript. It's a very lengthy process. It's a very lengthy process. Actually, we need a lot of methods. Create element, append child. That is the concept of adding elements, removing elements, iterating, repeating elements. Repeating elements is also lengthy. For example, see, suppose I have an ordered list. Now what I have a collection called categories is an array. In that I said electronics, in that I said footwear. Now we have fashion, something. Now I want these items to add into this ordered list. Into ordered list, if you want to add any item, it should be of list item type. Suppose you want to add into select, it should be of option type. Then what we have to do? We have to write a for loop where item of what categories. For iterator I am writing. Here we have to create an option. Document dot create element. What is it? Option. Option dot text will be item. Option dot value will be item, and this option must be added to drop down. Document dot query selector select into that what append child, which one option. Now you can see it creates a drop down with them. This is lengthy process. This is very lengthy process. Imagine to create a drop down, it took this time. If I have to create a table with columns, with the rows, with the cells, it takes a lot of logic behind this. This is the problem and the pain that we have with JavaScript in order to add elements, remove elements, and repeat elements. Here, which element is repeating? Option is repeating. For how many categories are there? Those many times it is repeating. For that, we need iteration loops like that. This is all the issue that you face generally with JavaScript. Now, Angular have a simple concept for that. And for that, Angular provides what directives? Structural directives. Why they are called structural directives? Because they can control the DOM structure. They can control the DOM structure. How they control the DOM structure? By adding, removing, and repeating elements in page. They can control the DOM structure. DOM structure is hierarchy of elements. We can add elements, we can remove elements, we can repeat elements by using these directives. And actually, Angular structural directives are, we have three important structural directives. One, we have ngIf. Another one, we have ng switch. And we have ng for. Only these three. Only these three are there. So many times people ask like, sir, only three are there. How many you want? Only three are there means what do you think? One we need for adding, another we need for removing, another we need for iterating. Why you are expecting million, 1,000, 10,000, 500, 20, 30? What work you have to do? Adding element, for that one function. Removing element, one function. For iterating, repeating element, another. That's what you need. Right? That means because many times people have doubt like only these three are enough. That is what the work we are expecting. Na? What work you are expecting? Adding one function enough, removing another function enough, repeating another function enough. That means here the work is simple and the directives also simple. So now what is the purpose of these directives? We will see. What is if, what is switch, what is for here. These are different from your language concepts. These are different from language because these are related to controlling the DOM structure. That means they are not exactly the same how you think in your language if condition. Here, their behaviors are little different. What are those? Let's see. First, we will see today how we can deal with ngIf. How we can use ngIf. What is the purpose of ngIf and how we can deal with ngIf? Actually, it's simple. It is a what type of directive? Structural directive. Good. It is a structural directive. It is a structural directive. What it can do is it can add element to page or remove element from page. That's what ngIf can do. It can add the element, it can remove the element. Actually, it uses a Boolean value or expression. It uses a Boolean value or expression. Directly you can use Boolean value, or you can use any expression that returns Boolean value. An expression that returns Boolean value or directly Boolean value. So how you are expecting, suppose there is a div, and here we are defining, and one more point I will tell here first. Another point is actually structural directives are added to HTML elements by using asterisk. They are added to HTML elements by using asterisk. And one more, that means asterisk means like this. We have to use asterisk ng if. And it uses so a true or false Boolean value, or it can use a Boolean expression. That means it can use any expression, but which kind of expression? Boolean expression. Boolean expression. It can use Boolean expression that returns Boolean. That's how actually it can manage. This is ng if. And one more important rule you have to know is actually structural directives are added by using asterisk. By using asterisk, we have to add the structural directive. Another point is every element can have only one structural directive. Can have only one structural directive. When you are adding any structural directive, make sure that there is no another structural directive for that. That means suppose I am adding here ng what if, and here I am adding again ng suppose for, like this. So this is invalid. You cannot have two structural directives for one element. There can be only one. There can be only one. Inside that you can have another. That means nested can be there, but multiple cannot be there. Nested means what I will show you, but you cannot add a structural directive to any element if it is already having a structural directive. If any structural directive is already there, you cannot add, right? That is important. Now let's see simple concept here. Actually, simple point here. How this works in our example. Let's see our example. In this example, product details are coming, and the product details have title, price, preview and rating. Now, for example, product description is present. Every product has some description that we are not presenting here. That means you see here the fake store component. It is using a contract where description is present, category also present. But these two ID also present, but all we are not displaying. We are displaying only few things. Now I want anybody to watch its details, description, but only when they want it necessary. That means we will display the description only when he wants to see the description. That means in general, your HTML JavaScript combination, you might have hidden and displayed. That means if we don't want any screen, then generally what we do, we hide it. After that, we display it. For that, we apply dynamically styles. Generally, that is the basic practice we do in JavaScript. Any block we don't want to show, we hide it, again we display. But when you hide, it is still present in the page, only that it is not shown. Is any burden for page reduced? Burden for page is not reduced. You hidden a box which contains 50 lines presentation. By hiding that, nothing will happen to page. Only it is not displayed. Page burden is not reduced. If you remove the 50 lines, then page burden is reduced. It will become lightweight. So that's what ngIf can do. ngIf can add any component, means add any block. It can remove any block. It is not showing and hiding. It is adding and removing. For example, see now. Let's go to HTML page. What I will do is here, these are all actually product details. So here I will put a container div. And for this, I will give a class called description. That is the container description. And here we want to display a simple text area. You know, text area. Text area will have rows as some 4, calls as some 30. Like this, I given text area. 30 or 40 something text area. Now actually, this is text area I will keep disabled. Disabled because user just need to see its information, not to submit or do anything. That means you see in the output, there is a text area here. This text area, I want right side. Somewhere right side I want to display. Then I will go to the fake store CSS. Here I will write class what? Description. So we keep position as fixed and left as 300 pixel and the top as some 200 pixel. Then you can see its position is here. Its position is here, right side. Now inside this, I want to display inside the description here. I will just put here a simple binding expression. We are displaying product. So product dot what? Description. Description we are adding. And you can see the product description have to load here. So when we are accessing, it will get that and display. Some problem. Yeah, it took them some time. You see the description is here. That means this is the description about that product. Now I click on second product, automatically second product details will come. I click on third product, the third product details will come. The details will be changing. This description area, I don't want always. I want only when he wants to see it. Suppose we want to remove this now. Then what we will do is, for that description area, we will put a directive ngIf. I will put false. Means Boolean false. Boolean false, you can see that it is not there. Not there means hidden. No, not hidden. It is removed. It is removed. Actually, suppose instead of this, I am using style. Display as none. When I say style display none, it is not there. But you see, inspect. In the inspect, let's go to the category divs. And you can see, where is it? The description is there. Am I right? The description is there, but it is not shown in the page. The description is there, but it is not displayed in the page. Text area present. So this is what your HTML JavaScript can do. But this is not reducing any burden on my page. Then what I will do is, instead of this, we will use what ng if what it is false. Then you can see it is there here. Let the content open and you can go here. You can go to this division and you can see here the product details. And here it is showing you some bindings are there, which are, it is just a comment. It says that here something is missing. Not missing, it is saying that here some content will be later added. Will be added. That means currently it is not there. It is not there. You can see there is no text area now in the page. Is it hidden? No, it is not hidden. It is removed. Okay, let's set it to true. I will set it to true. When I set it to true, now you can see in the fake store that again that division came, description came. Na? The description came and what it is having? Text area. So this is not showing, this is actually adding. What is the speciality of ngIf is? It is going to add and remove. So what false will do? So Boolean false will remove element from page. And Boolean true will add element to page. So just we have to write like this. So ngIf is equal to false. If I write like this, that means this div will be what? It is removed. It is removed. So, and if I write true and I define ngIf, it is true, then what it is? So it is added. This is added to page. Added to page. That is the Boolean true and false. So why it is called a structural directive and what is its role? It is called as a structural directive because it can control the DOM structure. And it will add or remove elements from the page. Okay. Now, how to control this dynamically? How you can control this dynamically? That's your wish. You can write a logic for that. You can change the Boolean true to false, false to true by using your logic. Let's do that. We can use MVC approach. We can use MVVM approach, anything. For example, see what I'm doing now here. Now I want this box to show and hide based on one simple heading. Here I will keep a container. Here I will add. So view description. And here I will add a checkbox. Input type is equal to checkbox. Now the concept is when user selects the checkbox view description, then only it should display. When I remove that, it should be hidden. That means we need to just show and hide on the checkbox. I will change this checkbox to form switch. And here we need to make it as class as form check input. Now automatically it will change to a switch here. So we are changing this to a, and here just we need to turn on, right? That means now what we have to do is we learned two-way binding, MVC, MVVM approach. Here simple. How to make this checkbox dynamic? To make the checkbox dynamic, we have to add NG model. How to collect the value of the checkbox and store? We need a reference. What is the reference name? Any name. So that means toggle description. Understood? Toggle description is a ID reference. Now model should use this ID reference, NG model. We learned MVVM approach now. In MVVM approach, every element is marked with NG model, and whatever values are coming in that collect by using this reference name. So NG model will use that reference where the data is stored about this checkbox. Now this NG model, what is it? Toggle description. What it may return? What value it will return? Because it is a checkbox. Already I told you in MVVM, if it is a text box, it will return value. If it is a checkbox, it will return Boolean true or false. Because checkbox returns checked property, na? Checked true or false. So that means the value of checkbox will be true or false. The value of text box will be string. That will be string. Value of drop down will be string. But the value of checkbox and radius will be true or false. So the value of this will be true or false, which I need to apply to this area. Na? That means this true false coming from which location? Toggle description dot value. That's it. We are simply applying that there. Toggle description comes from checkbox. If checkbox is on, it is true. If checkbox is off, it is false. Now you can see here, simple, it is not displaying the description. I turn on view description, it will come. I turn off view description, it will be hidden. That means we are just controlling that by using on and off. Is it showing and hiding on true false? No, it is adding and removing. It is adding and removing that block dynamically. It is doing that. So here we remove, it will be removed. So we add, this will be added. For any product, second product, this is the detail of second product. Now I turn off, I don't want to see it. I on, then the detail of second one will come. Every product related description will be changing here. And you can turn off and you can turn on. That's what you can manage. Right? So this is basic how we can use NG if. So same previous example what we learned in last session. In that example, we added one extra facility. Actually, product description is present, which is defined in such a way that user can toggle it. User can on and off by adding and removing. For that, we have to use a simple NG if. So here, this is example for that I will give. This example is same last example. 3 files I will have to give here. Fake store only, na? Right? Yeah, fake store dot component dot ts. Let me copy it. Actually, in ts we have these all one more contract also, because we created a fake store product contract now, right? So here we need first one, fake store product contract. File name, yeah, product contract.ts. In the fake store product contract, this is the contract. It is interface. So then fake store dot component dot ts. In the fake store component, this is the logic. One more is fake store dot component dot html. In HTML, this is the presentation. HTML, this is the presentation. One more we need. What is it? Fake store dot component dot css. Just the position I controlled for that description. Position fixed, left and top, where it should display, I handled that. This is the example we designed. That's the example we created. Now, here, generally you already know that if means there might be some else clause also. Am I right? Right? Here we are using only if. There might be, is there any else clause? That means actually, if it is not true, it is empty. It is not adding anything. That means if it is true, then only it is adding any content. Generally, what happens is, usually what happens when you are trying such design, you see, you kept here some box. This box is for, this box we kept for ads, okay? Some advertisements. Now what happens is, here you given a close button. That means user can remove ads. When user removes ads, then what happens is, when user closes, it is removed, but that place is reserved for advertisements. Then I will put a message here. That I will say that ads here. Am I right? That means ads will come here. You closed it. It's okay. Right? That means you click again on that. It will show you that ad if you want. That means what happens is, if it is removed, then it should not be empty. Something else should be there. When it is displayed, it will display what it is having. If it is removed, it will display something alternative. For example, you written a logic like this. If condition, or say I am writing simply for your understanding, like, so if suppose pin is equal to some 333 something, then if it is matching, then we will put a message, so success. This message will come. I am not writing else. So if pin is success, it will complete. It will show success. If not, if pin is not success, then it will not do anything. If it is not doing anything, then confusion. At least it should say wrong. Right? It will work, no problem. But if it is not doing anything, then it is little confusion. Like, then we should say that, okay, if you entered wrong, I will put a wrong message. Is it necessary to put a wrong message? No, not necessary. But if you put, it is clean. So that means when condition is not satisfied, it is not necessary to put an alternative every time. But sometimes keeping an alternative will easily guide the user that this is what he is trying to do. That is the reason else, if and else clause. We should not call if and else statement because else is not a statement. Else is considered as a clause. You should say if and else clause, not if and else statement. Only if is statement. Else is an clause. If and else clause have an alternative to display when condition is false. That you can do here also. We can do here. When condition is true, one. If condition is false, another. For example, what we want to display here is, suppose this is description. I am adding this HTML. I am adding this ngIf not to text area. I am adding not to this div. I am adding to text area. I am adding to text area. Now what happens is, so when user turns on, text area will come. Turns off, actually div is here only. Only text area is hidden. Then what we will do? We will remove text area and put an alternative message saying that description here. We will say that here description will come. Right? That means we reserved the place for description, but if he wants, he can see. But where he is going to get the description, we will alert him, saying that if you turn on description, it will come here. We will reserve a place because we can't occupy the place given for any area in a website. You reserved an area for advertisement. That area is for advertisement. When advertisement is removed, you can't put your content there. That is not good because later when advertisement come, it disturbs. That's the reason we reserve that place. So almost all websites you might have seen ads area. They will give an option to close, but still that place is reserved. Right? So that is what actually we can do. So how to put an alternative? How you define an alternative? To define an alternative, actually, we have to write like this. Generally, you may learn some programming languages. So like, what are the programming languages you have learned? Any idea? Java, C#, .NET, like C, C++. They are all structural programming. All right? Right. Any idea of any procedural programming? That is pseudo procedure actually. Actual procedure oriented languages, the if conditions are little different. Means generally we write like this. If structural means a parenthesis, curly brace will be there, block will be there. This is structural approach actually. Procedure, if condition, then we will have. Then statements. What are the statements? We will have else. Then what are the statements? That means actually we use then to define the statements to execute when condition is true. Right? This is procedured approach. Generally, our Angular follows this kind of approach. In that case, what ngIf requires a then to render the block when condition is true. It requires an else to render the block which is false, true or false. On true or false, it needs then. To handle that, it needs then and else. That means actually we can write like this. That means we can configure like this syntactically. So here I will give a option. This is ngIf with alternative blocks. ng if with alternative blocks, alternative block, right? That is what we have to define. What is an alternative block is nothing but the block to display when condition is false. Condition is false. That means alternative block refers to container that renders into page when condition is false. Condition is false. That is what actually if. Syntactically, generally, we write like this. We write like this. Asterisk ng if. Here we have to write condition. Condition true or false. We will put a semicolon and we will write here then. We will put a then and we write then block ID. We have to refer then block ID. And we have to write else and we have to write else block ID. Else block ID. This is how we have to define. Now actually here there must be two blocks. One block for true, another block for false. Two blocks we have to define. Now again the problem comes. The problem is here, the problem is, are then and else statements? Then and else are not statements. Statement is only if. If is a statement. I told you already that else is a clause. So if ng if is the statement and then and else are not statements, then and else cannot control your HTML. Or ng if can control your HTML, that is already doing that. It is removing the block and adding the block. Else and then they cannot control your HTML. They cannot control your HTML. That means this then block and else block cannot be a HTML block because they are not statements. They are just clauses. A clause cannot add or remove HTML elements. Only statement can do. So then block, else block cannot be a HTML block. If it is not HTML block, how to design a block? That means here very important is the then and else. Else keywords. Keywords actually, keywords refer to clauses. They refer to clauses. So they cannot control. That means they cannot control HTML blocks. HTML blocks. So hence you need to create a dynamic block in Angular by using ng template. We have to use ng template. We have to use ng template. That is what dynamic blocks. There are so many dynamic blocks which you will learn one by one. Currently, what is ng template? Ng template indicates a set of markup to render into page when the condition is matching or condition is not matching. That means the then block, the then and else, these cannot control HTML blocks. Then we have to control by using a dynamic block. Let's try that actually. First, I will show you how they can't control it, right? I will show you that. Let's see actually. So for that, what is the point here? Here I am writing. Now let's design some concept like this. So we have text area. See the text area. This is text area. I will put in one div. Okay. I will put in another div, a simple italic letters saying that description here. Am I right? Simple in italic letters I given description here. That is what the point. Now two divs are there now. Now this div have an ID hash reference. The div and ID as description. Am I right? Or we will use as details. Okay. Details is an ID. Okay. Or yes, I will give here another one hash. This is nothing but suppose alternative. Am I right? Details alternative, just for your reference. Now I am writing a condition here in a div. What is the condition? What is it? ng if. ng if. What is the details? We have to get it from where? So we need to get it from which location? Toggle description. Toggle description. Description dot what? Value. It is a Boolean value. True or false. That is condition. Semicolon. That is the condition. Semicolon. If condition true, then what we have to do? Then we have to refer to then block. What is the then block ID? Description. Description. Just we have to give the name. Description. Am I right? Description. I am writing like this. And else what it is? Else which one to display? Alternative. This is what we need to display. That means if condition is matching, description block will come. If not matching, alternative block will come. Now see the error here. It says that so description does not exist in fake store. Suppose I given details here. I will give details. Details is to display. Now you see now then and else have a problem. What is the problem? Then says HTML div element is not assignable to ng if. Am I right? It says that HTML element is not assignable. We are trying to assign a HTML element to this. Details is a HTML element now. It is not assignable because it's not a statement. It's a clause. It cannot independently write. Can you write else individually? It is a clause of if. So generally many people say if and else statement. That's wrong. If and else not statement. Only if is statement. Else is clause. So technically you should say if and else clause. Not if and else statements. If statement, okay. Right? That means then and else are clauses. They can't work directly. Then Angular cannot render them. Then what we have to do? Change this div to what? ng template. I am changing to ng template. This also what it is? ng template. Now details is okay. Now else have problem. It says that it also cannot assign. Am I right? This also I have to change to what? ng template. And here I need to change this to ng template. And you can see now here you can see it says description here. Right? But actually it should show there because the container is there now. That means we need to put the container. Turn on, then it will come here. Right? I will remove here because I changed the point, right? So what happens now? Lot of content is changed now. Lot of content is changed. This area description you are writing, right? Inside this class, fake store class, we are using description, right? But what happens is it is not going to display here. Why it is not going to display here? Because now in that again several blocks are defined. We are configuring again several blocks. So we will do one thing. We have to change a little approach now. That means presentation style we need to change. You don't need this class actually. What you need to do here is just, we will remove this because this is also condition. This condition, this area, all must be kept at one place. Understood? Right? That means previous only description you are giving, it is not satisfied. Remove that part. Oh. ng template. Yeah. I will remove this area. Cut it. Okay. I will keep in a separate location. First, I will make some divisions here. Div class is row. In this div, the class is call. And here also div. This is another call. 2 columns I am giving. And in this column, the next content is there. In the first column, these will be there. Okay. We are dividing into 2 columns. So this will be defined in that column. We are dividing that there. Just it is nothing but we are keeping that in 2 columns. That means we are defining here. Description is here, right? That's just adding the description there. Now here where it is, this is the row, columns and all. These are the product details. And what we will do, we will add this one. Description is column here. Am I right?
Recording stopped.
Oh.
Recording in progress.
Yes. Okay. Now what we will do is here, I will just keep some area. Actually, this all container margin top as what, some 4 or 5. 4. That's fine. It's okay. Now you turn on the description, it will come here. If you remove the description, hide, then you can see it is hidden. Then it puts a message there. What is it? Description here. This is an alternative block. That's an alternative block. I just created one paragraph. So italic we given. You can give a box with height so that box is visible. In that box, you can keep center, anything you can do. That means I just kept a description. Where I kept it? A simple italics. That means actually it can be in a div. For that we can define style. So width as some 300 or 200. So we have some height as some 200. So border as 1 pixel. So solid or say dotted. And suppose black or gray I will give. Like this we are defining, then we can just keep that border. Right? We will add some padding also there. So padding as 20 pixel. Then it will have some gap around that. Height, width, your wish, you can control that. Now when I turn on, it will display description. Again, it will display like this. That is your wish, how you want to control that. So do you want an alternative thing to happen? Then how you can define an alternative? By using else, right? So how do we control that? By using this. So here we need to refer the syntax like this. How to configure syntax div? We have to use what? ng if, here true, then we have to use then what? Then block, and else what? Else block. That's how we need to render. Then how to design those blocks? We have to use ng templates. Its ID is what? Then block. And here, so on true. Am I right? And ng template. Another one is what? So ng template. We have to design another template. What it is? Else block. You can give any idea. You can give any ID. Else block, this will be displayed on false. It will be displayed on false. That is ng template. Like this, we can configure. Now, on true, it will display true block, else, that is then block. On false, it will display else. Right? Now, here, hierarchy problems also will come. Sometimes you people, while designing, what you do is, so this is the condition. So generally some people, while because due to some hierarchical misunderstanding, you keep these templates inside the div. Understood? That means you will think like in the div, when true, this will be there, false, it will be there. Remember, these templates cannot be inside the if container. Understood? Outside the if container. They cannot be inside the if container. If container should have only conditions. Right? Inside them, don't try to put templates. So that means you have to write this condition. We have condition. You have to write this condition in a separate div. After that div finished, then you write your blocks. Don't try to put these template blocks inside the div container where you have written the condition. That means I will give a better note here is, so the dynamic templates are defined by using what? ng templates. The dynamic templates must be outside the condition block. Understood? Outside the condition block. They cannot be inside the condition block. If they are inside condition block, again, they will not work. These are some basic rules you need to follow. Now, many times people ask the question like, sir, in general, we have else if, else if, how many alternatives? You can have 3-4 alternatives. Can we have such multiple alternatives here? No. There can be only one then and only one else. Then when you go to Angular interviews, they ask this question particularly for experienced people. They ask that, so will ngIf supports multiple alternatives? ngIf will not support multiple alternatives. Then how you will present multiple alternatives? I want multiple alternatives. Then how? By default, multiple alternatives are not possible. That means else if is not there. Either then or else. Then how you can manage multiple blocks as alternative blocks? Multiple blocks as alternative blocks. You can have multiple blocks as alternative blocks. And for that true condition, how we can manage that is by using a technique called content projection. This is a very high level concept. Content projection is a concept which is not discussed for general freshers actually, but we will discuss this. Why? Because at experience level, this question is very common for people in Angular, right? Content projection, many people even don't know this word who already know Angular, right? But at experience level, this is a very high level concept and it is very regularly used in real world development process. Then what is this content projection? How this content projection works, we will see. By using content projection, what we can achieve? We can have multiple alternatives. Condition 1, condition 2, condition 3, like that we can manage. But it is not officially directly available with ngIf. We need to implement some new technique into this. That is called content projection. What is content projection and how it works, that we'll see in tomorrow's session. Okay, na? Don't miss tomorrow's session. This is very, very important concept, right? you will be confused if you miss tomorrow's concept, because it will continue for few other points, right? This is very important topic, right? Tomorrow will continue, right?